Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. This is Nigeria Now on Equa Television International. We are live on Facebook and YouTube as well. Just do well to join us in this conversation, and you know how we do it here. Nigeria Now is where we talk about Nigerian issues in general, the progress, and everything. And I'm not doing this alone. I have Joyce Jakada with me.
As always, a pleasant afternoon to you, Sabu Sulubu.
Yes, looking beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very good as well.
Fresh day, fresh issues, and then we're looking at federal government, their response, you understand, to the European Union election observers, their report. You remember last time we spoke about, how the European Union observers brought out their report, pointing out some areas that they feel the INEC supposed to look into and then work on them. They talked about the laws. They talk about electoral offenders. They talk about so many things in the report. And then now the federal government are rejecting that report.
Well, I'm not surprised with the response of the federal government to the European Union Election Observers Mission's report. And because you would expect that after such reports, the federal government defense will come out and then respond to that. But the observation of the 2023 election is not something that was done by just the international observers, but even domestic observers. We saw how they were registered even before the elections, and they were briefed, especially not infringing on the electoral laws and even guidelines. And it is expected at the end of the day reports are given such as this, so that where correction needs to be made, it is made. Where there's problems, it should be noted, so that we won't have such repeating itself. So it was just last week that the European Union report identified flaws in the 2023 general election, and it came through the chief observer of the EU EOM Union, talking about Barry Adams, and he had in a press briefing that was last week noted that the election exposed enduring systematic weaknesses, and therefore it signaled a need for further legal and operational reforms to enhance transparency, inclusiveness, and even accountability. He spoke about the shortcomings in the law and then the electoral administration, which he said it hindered the conduct of well-run and inclusive election and damaged trust in INEC. And these were things that we saw during the election. A lot of people had confidence. They went out all out to vote because they had all the promises coming from INEC with the signing into law of the 2022 Electoral Act. People had assurances. People were all ready. We saw how that the number of people that registered increased, and then people went to collect their voters card. And on the election on 25th of February, we saw that even at 5 a.m., as early as 5 a.m., some people went using stones, some object to register their presence before even INEC officials arrived. Unfortunately, in most of the polling units that we observed, we saw how that the INEC officials turned late, came in late, and some of them at the end of the day did not even upload their result because and at the end of the even access to result in real time that was assured to Nigerians, a lot of people couldn't have access to it. At the end of the day, INEC likened it to technical glitch, and people were not happy with the entire process. A lot of people complained about it. Oh, we thought this is going to be different from other elections with the introduction of new technology and all of that. That this is the first time that we're going to introduce technology in a general election. So it gave hope, and like the EU EOM are saying and observed that what actually happened was far from a democratic democratic process. And they talked about the operational failure, and they gave recommendation as well, because beyond noting the problem, there is need for the people to have trust in the whole process. And so they gave in like about 6 priority recommendations that will lead to improvement. One of which was establishment of publicly accountable selection process for INEC officials. On what ground are INEC officials being involved in the whole thing? A lot of people likened said that most of these people that were employed or were appointed were used by certain political parties to just so that they can work for them at the end of the day. It was some party faithfuls and all of that. So you see, if the process is open and then people see the process at which members are being appointed, then it's going to help in gaining trust and even confidence when it comes to the whole process. So they spoke about establishing publicly accountable selection process for INEC members was going to be very important. They talked about ensuring real-time publication of and then access to election results. So beyond just having the election conducted, it is needful that people have access to it in real time. That way, when people win, they win. When somebody loses, honorably he will go down, because the result is actually transparent. The whole process, people had access to it. But by the time election is being conducted and you start hearing, oh, sorry, you cannot access this website because of some technical glitch, and then 24 hours later or 48 hours later or even 1 week after, we see that results are still being uploaded. Like it is going to hinder confidence and even trust in the whole of that process. So the EU or election observers actually recommend that election results should be transmitted in real time, and people should have access to it in like manners. And they said they should provide greater protection for media practitioners. We saw how that some media practitioners were attacked in the 2023 general election. So when there is protection for media practitioners, then of course, as the election is going on, they are reporting in real time, people will trust the whole process. I recall I said it last week that in some countries, other developed climes, it is the media that announce election results, because they are there, they report in real time. People that watch, follow, like they believe everything that is coming from the media, because they know that they are there, they are at the field where everything is happening. So if we ensure the protection of media, then we are going to be sure of the information that is actually coming in. But where we have threats, we have intimidation, we have violence, we have attack, then of course media will not have access to such places, or at the end of the day they might be attacked. So they also recommend that media practitioners should be protected. Again, they talk about addressing discrimination, especially regards women in even political participation. We see that how that some positions are just relegated to women. Some women don't even have access. From primaries, they are being wiped out. Like, you know, how can a woman be this? How can a woman? We gave it to some state where we saw women coming out and then even emerging as even the primary after primary election as the flag bearers and all. But more opportunity needs to be given to women. So they spoke about discrimination against women, even impunity against electoral offenses. These are some areas that they called on INEC and then the federal government to actually look into it ahead of next election. It's going to lead to improvement. But what did they get after marking the whole election as identifying some of these flaws? Federal government, through the special advisor on special duties, communication and strategy, talking about Dele Alake, said they strongly reject the EU's conclusion of the 2023 general election. They said it is biased and unfounded. And so on behalf of the federal government and the presidency, Dele Alake is saying that they reject the conclusion of the general election. And then he alleged bias and intentions to impeach the integrity of the 2023 election. He described the election as the best organized general election since 1999. He faulted the data gathering technique of the EU EOM. He said they just have barely 40 observers in 36 states, including Abuja, which is to say, oh, it's just one person to a state. So how can one person in a whole state come out with data that are actually viable? So they strongly condemned the report, and added to the 40, they had 11 analysts in Abuja. So they said the report that is coming from EU and any other reports from groups or individuals that is condemning the election, they tagged it unacceptable, because how can out of 176,000 polling units, you're having just 40 party. So they said it's not technical and it is not even logical. So they strongly kicked against it. They described the election as credible, peaceful, fair, and the best, like I said earlier, since 1999. And even though in a twist, PDP as well as Labour Party lambasted the presidency, saying that this election, they are for the EU EOM's conclusion, and they said that is the state. They agreed to what the report is saying, because that was what the election was. It was marred by irregularities and does not represent the will of the people. And Labour Party, they did, and as well as the PDP, lambasted the federal government for rejecting that report and called them to have a meeting, because this does not represent the will of the people. But again, like I will always maintain, the point of change is the point of taking responsibility. So as expected, of course, not just the EU EOM, other international as well as domestic election observers are going to give their reports. The point of change is acknowledging where we went wrong and where we need to put some dots and cross our T's, so that we don't have the same thing repeating itself over and over again. We cannot deny the fact that some of these irregularities or operational failures were things that we saw happening cut across different polling units, across different states. A lot of people lost their life. Look at intimidation in Lagos, Kaduna, other states of the Federation. So these are things that were even reported in real time by people that were involved. Some people went live on Facebook. We saw it. Some people were attacked. Even the INEC officials in some places were also attacked. So we cannot kick against all of this discrimination or impunities that were perpetrated. So when people commit impunity, electoral offenses, we don't do anything about it. Again and again, they will repeat the same thing. So I think it's going to be important if the federal government look into this issue again, where corrections need to be made, they do it, so that we don't have a repetition of the same thing. Already the case is at the tribunal, so sitting has continued. Nigeria look forward to the end of the whole matter. But what we maintain is that if the process that brings people to power must be excellent. That way you can be assured that they are going to work for the people, knowing well that they are the choices of the people. It is the representation of the will of the people.
Well, I was, should I say I was surprised? Not really surprised, but I saw it coming. Because you know, in some of our shows here, I think some of these things were highlighted, and we spoke about them like with intensively. You know, we talk about how this election, from the planning to during the election, the after the election, and I think we had a program here that aftermath. You understand? We highlighted all of these things. Are you surprised for a politician to come and to stand and to say, even the spokesperson of INEC, you know, when journalists were engaging him on the report, you know, he was stammering. There are certain questions he didn't answer because they asked him, you said there were glitches, you know, during the election. What happened? Up to now, as we speak now, there is no report to that. You know, because you are expected that it is something that Nigerians are hoping that this thing will work. And then at the end of the day, it didn't work. And you're quiet. You are not even telling people how does the thing, the report concerning the whole thing that you say it didn't work, glitches here, where, how? These are the questions that Nigerians were asking. And still up to now, there's no answer. And then, my only disappointment, I applaud them, the European Union election monitoring, whatever, you know, I applaud them for coming out with that robust, you know, report. But why is it coming now? I expected that this thing should be out before now. That's one part.
Well, I think this is a comprehensive report, because before now they actually spoke about the election.
Yeah. Okay. This is the point I'm trying to. This is where I'm trying to learn. You know, in all of this report, they didn't take a stand. Is my own opinion. I expect to say, based on this and this and this, we stand to say to us, this election is not credible or is credible. Because we want to see a stand whereby, because if they are saying, okay, look at it from this angle. These are people that you always run to take loan. The loan that we don't see you implementing things you say you want to do. These are the people bringing report and you are rejecting the report. Their report is not something that you hold on to, but their money, their aid, it's something that you will run to. This is the angle where I'm saying we need to see this European Union taking a stand on certain things. If something is black, call it black. If you want to take a stand on that, if your election...
But Sabu Solomon, I think they have a stand for them to tag the election flawed and saying it doesn't represent the democratic process that.
But we saw some European countries congratulating from that angle I'm coming. We saw some European countries congratulating. You're congratulating what? Something that is flawed? You get my point. But that aside, I think for me, there's nothing that this report, yes, you say comprehensive. Nigerians have given their own comprehensive report based on what happened, because they are the ones that went and did the election. And they came out, they said it's not a reflection of what they did. So who do you want in another world to come and tell you what you participated?
Not all Nigerians, because we saw some party in Abuja dancing, saying that yes, this represents their will.
I'm taking most. If not, you see the same person now saying is the most credible, right? Is the most credible. Talking with whose voice? You understand? Like you really said, you know, it's just
of the millions of Nigerians, over 8 million voted for APC according to INEC's announcement.
According to INEC's announcement.
Going by that,
it is fine. But what we are saying, you mentioned something earlier. The point of change is a point of taking responsibility. You know, you remember when the former president Yar'Adua, you know, when he was elected, he said the process was marked with so many irregularities, and that is why the Ways Committee was formed, so that we will see how we will fix things. And then immediately he started working. And then when leaders take responsibility, they are giving hope to even the people that are being governed. Because you take responsibility, you are trying to tell us that yes, there are some of the things that are not right, but we will do our best and see how we will correct it. And I pray that our leaders will man up, let me put it that way, to take responsibility, call black black and call white white. That is the only way that we will see that hope that you are talking. There is hope, there is a renewed hope, because with all of this kind of statement out there, I don't think we are ready.
Well, still talking about taking responsibility, I think that is why SERAP is seeking spending details of 400 billion naira fuel subsidy. It says that with the removal of fuel subsidy, the federal government is expected to have saved 400 billion naira, and is asking the FG to publish details of spending of that 400 billion naira so far saved, and details of specific projects on which the fund will be spent on, as well as the mechanism that is being put in place to ensure that such fund is not embezzled or misappropriated. SERAP says that Nigerians have the right to actually know how the savings are spent, and then so there's need for the details to be published, and it's going to engender transparency, accountability, and reduce the risks of corruption in spending of the fund. And you know, that has always been the concern of Nigerians, that anytime there's maybe loot, recovered loot, you don't get to know what happened to the fund. And the socio-economic rights and accountability project, in line with its primary responsibility, is saying that federal government, since the removal of fuel subsidy, of course it has saved about 400 billion naira. So what have you done with that money? how have you, to what project were you able to link this money to, and then what are the mechanisms that you have put in place to ensure that such monies are not going to be siphoned, are not going to be embezzled or misappropriated. The fear right now is so it won't end in some individuals' pocket at the detriment of over 133 million people in Nigeria that are living within poverty rate, because with such policies, a lot of people, like the World Bank published, are going to be put into poverty or had been put. We saw how about 11% in the urban area, 4% in the rural area have been, between January to May, have been added to the number of people living in poverty. So there's actually need for the federal government to be accountable, to be transparent in terms of that money. So Serap is saying, can you tell us how you have saved this money, how you have spent it, and the need to publish it, I think is going to be very important. So I think Serap are actually living up to their responsibility, telling the federal government these past few weeks that Nigerians have turned to members of Trekkers Association. These past few weeks that Nigerians have been suffering, going to the market, buying things at over 200% increase. Services have hiked. We saw last week how that AEDC say, oh, we are going to increase our tariff. Other Ikeja electricity distribution company are also saying, oh, by July 1st, we are going to increase. Remember, I said that if other products and services are hiking prices, common man will just turn into dust because you are left with all of these bills. So this money that we say, oh, first subsidy, remove it, is just some few individuals that will be enjoying. Can this money be linked to other sectors? It is expected that by now Nigerians are already enjoying from other sectors because of this money that is being saved, but not yet, because even the palliative that we're saying, oh, can we have some forms of palliative to cushion the effect of first subsidy removal? Up till now, as we speak, it has no direction. Committee has been said, we are still waiting for their report. But so far, this 400 billion naira that has been saved, what is the plan for Nigerians? Sarah is asking the federal government to publish all of this.
Well, we are hoping and we are trusting God that we will see them responding just like they respond quickly to the report. Yes, because you can't choose certain things to respond quickly. Simply because you feel that's your area of interest.
And Sarah by giving them 7 days.
Yeah, and that's how Nigerians are seen, you know, because they begin to look at how the federal government responds to certain issues. And you see a total misplacement of priority, you know, by the way they talk and the things they choose to respond on. You understand? We are talking about questioning the effect. You are taking up fuel subsidy without providing a succor to it, knowing that this is how Nigerians have been suffering. You went around the 36 states, including the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, to tell people that you know they are suffering. You know what Nigerians are going through, and you're coming to provide solution. And not just for us to wake up and then somebody is telling us that he's not quick to fix Nigeria. You understand? You hear, like, when I had that, and I said, this is season 2 of I'm Not a Magician.
He said that Nigerians should endure the pain with the baby step is actually taken, and it baffles me. I was actually thinking, can't governments endure pain on behalf of its citizens? Every time is always we're appealing to Nigerians, be patient, and all of that. If leadership is about service, can we see leaders being deliberate about cutting the cost of governance, their own pay, allowances, and all of that, so that Nigerians as a whole can actually enjoy? In a twist, we saw how the Bishop of Sokoto Catholic Diocese, talking about Matthew Kruka, yesterday spoke to journalists just shortly after the inaugural mass at the Catholic chaplaincy at the 119 Composite Group of Nigerian Air Force in Sokoto, and he emphasized the importance of that the federal government enforcing this freedom of religion and worship as enshrined in the Nigerian constitution by providing adherents of different faiths in the country with places of worship in various federal government establishments across the country. And he said it is actually a breach of the law if the federal government does not enforce it, because your freedom to religion is enshrined in the constitution, and it is expected that for every federal government establishment, institution, there should be a place of worship. He highlighted Catholic, Protestant, and even a mosque in that place. But today we have a lot of institutions and establishment of federal government without a place of worship, which he described as a breach of that right of freedom to religion and worship. You know, a lot of people have tagged Nigeria as a religious country, and then he's saying we have that freedom, we have that right. Can we have a place of worship in federal institution, federal government establishment, so that it can help people to really practice their religion? We've seen several times how people were killed, were massacred because of their faith. And I think if federal government are going to look into the issue of security, it was just yesterday that a pastor, RCCG pastor, was killed, and then 7 members were abducted. Thank God they have been rescued, just because they chose to worship and to practice their own religion. Can we have a country where respect for religion is prioritized? Because for personal religion, I think everybody has the right to choose the religion he wants to practice. So why would you want to kill another person for choosing his religion? You don't force me to go to your own religion. If it is a freedom, if it is a right, then I should be allowed to practice it. So we hope that the federal government are going to be deliberate in ensuring that, yes, beyond even having the places of worship, people are being protected when they go to worship their God, since it is enshrined in the constitution. As he also said, the welfare, the security, the safety of Nigerians are priorities, and when you look at that keenly, it is the primary responsibility of the government to protect lives and property. And so we do hope that the federal government are going to look into securing people even as they go to worship.
Well, we pray that our leaders will have the strong will, you know, to implement that which is enshrined in our constitution. I think hadn't been we take our constitution seriously, we wouldn't have been here, me talking about things that are not being done right. It should have been just falling in place. But let's keep our finger crossed and keep believing in Nigeria that things will work perfectly. Sure. And that's what we can't just lose hope simply because,
like I always maintain, we are not pessimists, we are optimistic. Nigeria is a great country. We are talking, we are giving our constructive criticism because we believe in Nigeria, and that's why we're calling our leaders to understand that leadership is from the heart. You pour it out from the heart, and governance is about the welfare of the people. So the needful must be done.
Thank you so much, Joyce, for doing this
always
with
a
me.
pleasure. Thank you.
Well, that's the much we can take. Thank you for staying with us. We encourage you to stay with Ekwa Television. Let's do this program same time, same station tomorrow. Thank you, and bye-bye.